Good afternoon. It's 1 o'clock, and we are here April 19th on a regular Board of County Commissioners meeting. We've got a big agenda today. Let me see. So first on our agenda is the approval of the agenda, and we have some items to remove and reorganize. So first on our posted agenda is the Pavement Plan Assessment presentation from Public Works. Public Works is working through the presentation still and has requested that we push that to our next meeting. So the removal of item number 1 is a recommendation, and second, moving item 5 and 8 respectively to the bottom of the agenda is another suggestion. Commissioner Fiedler, Commissioner Marcella, do we have any other changes?
I do not believe so. Thank you.
It sounds right to me.
Okay, great. All right. So with that removal of that item and some reorganization there, do we have, I guess, excuse me, let me come back from looking at the agenda onward. Do we have all the folks here and available for the first couple items with the bill generation presentation, or do we need to wait for any other folks on that?
I can get us started with item 2. I think Katie was supposed to do the rest of the bag updates, but I can start.
Okay, so we can be a little flexible with those couple items, but other than that, it sounds like we are in good shape. All right, so
Commissioner Mudge, this is Commissioner Marcella. If we need to push some of those updates, we can do that once we have the amendments back from legal with bill generation as well, and we can do that at that time if that would be helpful too. But Noah can provide us some good information on the Unmet Needs Committee and vaccination access work that bill generation is doing.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, so again, with the removal of item number 1 and relocation of 5 and 8 to the bottom of our list here, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as discussed?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Oh, I apologize.
No, thank you.
Everybody should silence their phones. That's something you don't really say on Zoom anymore.
But noted.
Yeah. All right. Let me get this posted in the chat real quick.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Sorry. Fuck. All righty. Okay, our numbers are going to be off a little bit here. My formatting is not following my changes in Word, but I think we can manage. All right. Okay, and with that, then we'll move into community informational items. Commissioner Fiedler.
Yeah, maybe just a note. I think people are probably beginning to see it on Facebook or the county website or advertised, but there are quite a few county positions that have been posted and are open. I think from perhaps our perspective as county commissioners, the most significant ones are the new county manager position. That has been talked about quite a bit, and thank you very much to DOLA for cost share in that over the next few years. But I think that's an incredibly important position for the county to get a great applicant pool in for. Wanted to highlight that. We also have a human resources manager position open, and I apologize, I didn't have the full listing in front of me, but those positions are all posted on the county website. And I think it's a pretty exciting time for some new capacity coming in. And then also just wanted to highlight, I don't think we have anything on this on the agenda, but there is the public health department is hosting a COVID response town hall Wednesday at 6 p.m. So I think, as people know, there are some sort of transitions coming up on us as the state guidance begins to change and relax and devolve more authority to the counties to decide their own measures. So I think I imagine that will be a fairly robust discussion at the town hall about how we want to responsibly reopen. That's all I got.
Thanks, Commissioner Fiedler. Commissioner Marcella?
Thank you. I think just to tag on to what Commissioner Fiedler said about our job opportunities and openings, just feel free to pass those out to whomever you think may be a good candidate or a good fit for any of those opportunities. And we'll be posting a few more as we go through some organizational changes here. I did want to take an opportunity, though, to just kind of clear the air. I know that the rumor mill sometimes has a tendency to work in overdrive, that we have not selected a candidate for the county manager position at this point, so that position is still open, and there hasn't been a selection of any candidate. We've gotten a lot of interest in that, and so we look forward to continuation of those applications. Also just wanted to throw out there that public health will be doing a few more vaccination clinics, so make sure that you watch their website and Facebook page for any information on those vaccination point of dispensing clinics that will be coming up. If you need to register for your second vaccination, you can do so at Rocky Mountain Family Practice or St. Vincent's, or public health can also assist you with getting to the right place. Summit Community Care Clinic is doing a Moderna second dose clinic as well. So if you need assistance with getting a vaccination and you're not able to do that in county, there are resources outside of our county. Our neighboring communities have been very great about opening their resources for us and our constituents that support their workforce in their community. So that's all I've got on my end.
Excellent. Thanks, Commissioner Marcella. All I have also is just acknowledging a press release that the board drafted and put out in the paper, and regarding Boom Days events and events in general. We put out a statement recognizing that we have given everybody equal opportunity, worked with staff to great lengths, both at city and county, depending on which jurisdiction you are permitted with. And so we just wanted to recognize Boom Day's independent decision so far not to submit an application, and how to approach their event for the summer. We will be having a work session tomorrow afternoon with that committee at 2 o'clock to also acknowledge and make sure that opportunity and any potential paths forward is apparent to that group. But again, as Commissioner Fiedler mentioned, and I will allow Colleen Nielsen, Public Health Director, to give us a COVID update here in this meeting, but we'll have a town hall and we'll keep the conversations going on, updating with state direction and local direction regarding changes to COVID protocol. And with that, I'll offer, if Colleen would like to say a few words then, leading into the town hall Wednesday night, that'd be great.
Hey guys, how's it going? And thank you so much for just taking a couple minutes. As multiple folks and commissioners had said, we are doing a town hall on Wednesday night. It will be with simultaneous translation. So Build a Generation has agreed to help us out with that meeting to ensure that all of our community members can participate effectively in it. We will continue to message that out and make sure that folks know that this is a good place to go, because as the commissioners mentioned, there's been a lot of changes that have happened. I always feel that way, I say that, but like really this time there's even more changes as of last week. Basically what the state is doing is allowing for more local control. And so at this point in time, Lake County has adopted the state order that is still out there saying that we're moving away from the dial. Some of the decisions that we need to decide on is really, looking at how does that impact our county? What things do we need to keep in place? So currently what we do have in place is all social distancing measures, which I'm sure most of you guys can repeat, but the big one being mask wearing in public when you cannot maintain 6 feet distancing, maintaining 6 feet distancing from folks, washing your hands. And we, if you're not feeling well, stay home. And if you're not feeling well, go get tested for COVID, because COVID is still in our community. We continue to see cases. It's still being what we call community spread. So from person to person, mostly in their, family and social groups is what we're seeing. And then, the other piece of the puzzle, like we said, are vaccinations. We have 2 big events coming up. I dropped those into the chat for folks, as well as all the other places that you can get vaccinated, because as we increase our vaccination rates, it allows us to kind of look at a bigger picture of what we're more comfortable with in our community to make sure that we're protected. And is there opportunity to have some less restrictive things, which would be very exciting for all of us. So we're still navigating that. We'll have a bigger conversation with the community and see where folks are at and what they, what their feelings are on everything. And like I said, we continue to have cases. We continue to investigate all of our cases and contact trace to reach out to other folks. Sometimes we recognize there is, sometimes a delay because so much of our providers are doing rapid testing, meaning that you can get your results usually within 15 minutes. And so sometimes there's a delay when in public health. So we do ask if you do get a positive test and or you've been exposed that to isolate if you're sick or quarantine. If you're not sick, and find a way to get a test, and we can provide all that information as well. So Rocky Mountain Family Practice and St. Vincent Health continue to do testing. It continues to be free for our community. So don't hesitate to do that so we can decrease spread and kind of keep moving. Is there anything else that I need to touch on or that I'm missing? Alrighty then. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Colleen.
Thanks, Colleen.
Marcella, do you have something? I see you unmuted.
No, I was just going to ask Colleen what we should expect at the town hall on Wednesday, if that will be kind of an update on where we stand now that the dial at the state level has been reduced, and what we should expect when we go into that town hall, what information will be given to us.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, we'll update on vaccination rates. We'll talk about disease spread and how we can continue to prevent that. We'll talk about, as well as, offer up conversation and opportunity for folks to share kind of where they're at, how they feel about what we should or shouldn't be doing in Lake County, if you will. Obviously, I may not agree, or I might agree on everything, but I think it is an opportunity to kind of welcome that conversation of what we can do as far as a community, because it is coming into local control. And then just talk about some of the preventive measures, some of the testing pieces, as well as, next steps, what events might look like in our community. I want to hear how people feel about those things, as well, because obviously we'll be responsible now for setting capacity limits. The state is still has their hand in it in the sense of limiting indoor events to 500. So we do know that is a cap that they've placed that they're holding tight, and to see, where we need to go next with the community. So it truly is a community conversation that we're listening and trying to make some decisions based on that.
Okay, thanks so
Thanks,
much.
Colleen.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, moving along. Do we have any commissioner clarifications? I have nothing.
Nothing, thank you.
Nothing for me.
All right. And next we have public comments made on, items not on the agenda. Do we have any public comments? If you would mind trying to raise your hand and or just unmuting, be happy to give you your 3 minutes. I see Christy Galarza has raised her hand. Go right ahead, Christy.
Thank you, commissioners. I just wanted to pop by for a second. Remind you that on Thursday, we're going to start our conversations about deed restriction at 6 to 7. I saw Patty included it on the planner, so thank you for that. And just wanted to provide an opportunity to answer any questions you guys might have ahead of time.
Thanks for that reminder, Christy. I don't think I have anything for you right now, but we will send those to you up until that point, or leading into Thursday night, sorry. Jamie, so you raised your hand. Jamie Cipher.
Thanks, Sarah, and thanks, commissioners. Christy asked me to be here today to speak in support of the deed restriction, which I fully support. One of the great things about the place that we live is the actual place that we live. And it's becoming harder and harder for people to actually arrive at this place. COVID's been a weird time for the real estate market, but even before then, it was difficult for folks to afford rental units. We had a bunch of second homeowners coming in, and I've got nothing against second homeowners, but I think we ought to give primary homeowners the primary consideration in the availability of our housing stock. So whether that is, adjusting the price of certain units or restricting who can buy what, or just giving priority to primary residents as opposed to secondary residents on county property, I think will help to preserve the place that we have and make more accessible housing for more people here in the future. So thanks in advance for taking a look and considering that, and curious to see what happens. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Jamie. Oh, man. Reed, I see your hand is up. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity. And I too wanted to weigh in on the deed restriction discussion. For those of you who don't know, I'm the director of the Chaffee Housing Trust, which also serves Lake County. And at some point, we'll have to consider a name change. But I wanted to talk about the deed restriction work that's been done. The actual deed restriction is just words on paper, a legal document, and one of the tools in the toolbox. But really the heavy lifting of all of that is developing the community guidelines so that we can figure out who should get housing, how that's done, and what's being done to make that happen. And I want to tip my hat to Build a Generation and also to the Housing Coalition, because they are really doing that heavy work of wading into the details, and they're going to be bringing the presentation to you soon to help share with you what they've figured out. So I hope that you will all honor that heavy lifting and all that work that's been done by participating and honoring that process, because it is really critical, and we're very fortunate to have individuals and organizations in the community that's doing that heavy lifting for government. And just as a sideline, I wanted to also reiterate that there's a deed restriction, and then the Chaffee Housing Trust uses what's called a ground lease. And those are two mechanisms to get to the same goal of preserving affordable housing in perpetuity, so that long after we are all gone, that affordable housing still exists. So I just wanted to share those comments with you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks so much. Any other public comments on items not on the agenda today?
Hello.
I hear someone. Kayla?
Sorry, I don't have necessarily, thanks. I don't necessarily have a comment for an item not on the agenda today, but just wanted to thank Reed and Jamie and Christy for coming to remind us and speak about that deed restriction meeting coming up this week. It's definitely important work, and I feel like as a board we're ready to take some action with housing and realize the importance of it. And so the more tools that we have in our toolbox, the better. So thank you for doing that work. We do appreciate it. Yeah,
thanks so much for that comment. the county's definitely doing our part on the back end to get us to a place to jump in. So excited for the continued conversations. Any other public comments on items not on the agenda? I don't see anything. Going once, going twice. All right, there'll be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. We'll move on to new business. And first on our agenda, see if I can pull up the right doc again. All right, so first on our agenda, we have a build a generation update on vaccination access work and the Unmet Needs Committee work. Noah or Katie, would you like to give us an update?
Thanks so much for having me. So I'll start with the vaccine access work. Commissioner Marcella reached out a few weeks ago to express the county's concern or wanting to help address the issue of making sure that folks who wanted to receive COVID vaccine had access to that. And so we've been talking and Build a Generation, along with the school district and Full Circle in St. George, applied to a grant from Caring Colorado to address that very thing. And we found out last week that we received that funding. So we've started planning out what that will look like, and just wanted to give you an update and make sure that y'all know, because I know it's an issue that you care about, but mostly just here to answer any questions. And so feel free to interrupt me. Don't have a formal presentation, but the project or the proposal that was funded is really around increasing education and removing barriers for folks who are interested or have questions about vaccination. And we're doing that through a few different channels, pushing different messaging through social and traditional media, utilizing the Family Connector project that has been working well over the past year with the school district and public health, and making sure that those folks are trained up and know how to give information and answer questions that might come up and help folks get registered for vaccines. Working with St. George and their community meals and pantry to try to help both push out information and potentially even provide vaccines at some of those events. And then working with Full Circle's family support specialists, again, to make sure that they have information to push out to the community and also answer questions and help get folks registered, and trying to tie that into existing programming, including the Unmet Needs Committee kind of intake process. So when folks reach out for rental assistance, they'll also be asked questions about vaccination and be able to answer questions and get registered that way as well. The idea being that if we can kind of centralize the messaging and make sure that we're all on the same page throughout all of those different touch points, that hopefully we can help kind of dispel any misinformation or just get questions answered in an effective way, and hopefully help push out good information and help folks who would like to get vaccinated get vaccinated. So the idea being, throughout the project, we'll be in touch with public health and be working closely with them to help understand who is and who isn't accessing the vaccine, so that we can try to tailor messaging. When we applied, I think the biggest disparity that we saw was around race and ethnicity, where the bulk of folks who had received the vaccine were white, in disproportionate amounts to how we know our community makeup is actually divided. So I think that'll be our first push, but we'll check in like every week or every 2 weeks with Colleen and her team to help understand if there are other disparities that are showing up around age or neighborhood or different characteristics. So the funding, I think, goes through the end of the year. I know it goes through the end of the year, but we're hoping really that if we can do good work over the next 3 or 4 months, that it won't need to go on, the work won't need to go on that long. Any questions about that?
Noah, this is Kayla. Does the access with vaccines allow us to take vaccines out into communities with it, like our outlying communities? in Lake County or in places where transportation has been linked to being an issue to access? Or
Yeah,
do we
it's a great
have a way
question.
to get people transported if that's an issue?
Absolutely. So, Colleen, if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me. I believe that there is a possibility for us to do on-site vaccine drives in neighborhood-specific locations, and that's something that we'll continue to explore with public health. And then to answer your other question, if we continue to offer large community vaccine drives at CMC or another location where transportation might be a barrier, Full Circle has agreed to use their vans as kind of a shuttle service for folks who whose barrier might be transportation.
I have a question. I was just curious, like, it seems like, if I understand, vaccine trials for younger than 16 are in progress. And I was wondering if the terms of this grant or funding, I mean, should those become available, would you also be, I mean, would this work also be able to help get the word out to those younger populations? Is there an age limit restriction, I guess, is the question.
Yeah, I think if while we still held this grant, which is through the end of the year, and we hadn't spent all the money down earlier, if a vaccine was approved for an age group that wasn't previously eligible, we would be able to help get that information out as well.
Great.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think I have any new questions. Mine was just on getting vaccines out into communities as part of promotion and getting doses out to folks. So glad that we'll be looking more closely at that. And I think sounds like the board would definitely support that.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think our approach at the beginning, because I know it's been a huge lift in public health and all of the volunteers that they've recruited and have been working with, like doing an on-site like at CMC is a lot of work. And so trying to get folks to those existing clinics first, I think is our goal. And then addressing or kind of reevaluating who hasn't received vaccines and trying to get vaccines to the people if people to vaccine isn't working. Awesome. Any other questions, or should I move on to UNC?
I think we can move on.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So I don't know how much background is helpful here, so happy to take direction. I know some of the commissioners are more familiar with this project. So I'll go medium, and if you want more information, let me know. So the Unmet Needs Committee started in late March of last year, pretty much soon after the state and county went into like our initial shutdown, to address the fact that folks in large numbers were losing their jobs quickly, and we anticipated a large need for rent and other utility or other essential bill payments. So it's been an ongoing and evolving collaborative that throughout the last 13 months has included Full Circle, Lake County Builder Generation, the city and county, city of Leadville and Lake County, the Lake County Community Fund, Office of Emergency Management, Public Health, and Department of Human Services, and everybody has played multiple roles in the process of this project over the last year. Where we're at now is that Full Circle pretty much exclusively does all the case management and fund disbursement, and they facilitate a bi-weekly meeting where applications for bill pay are reviewed and either approved or denied. We brought on a partner called the COVID-19 Eviction Defense Project, who has formalized into a 501c3 over the last several months. And they've really been able to provide some program guidance and structure, legal assistance for both the organizations involved and legal advice for residents who might be in situations that go beyond non-payment. Lake County Builder Generation, we do landlord case management and kind of coordination of all of the partner agencies and fundraising and have taken on the role of reporting back to you and the city. Lake County courts know about our project, and for any eviction or forcible entry and detain or FED cases that come before the Lake County court, try to make a referral to our program if it's appropriate. And then all of the other agencies are either helping with fundraising or are a part of the committee that meets every 2 weeks to review applications. So over the last year, a little over a year, the committee has pushed out close to or over $677,000 in rent and essential bill payments to Lake County residents. The two kind of non-negotiable requirements of the program are that you're a member of the Lake County community and you have had some kind of financial COVID-19 related financial impact. And then there's a series of other criteria that help the committee make recommendations. We have reached a duplicated 2,031 individuals through this program. So some families have applied more than once throughout the last year. So that number doesn't mean it's a quarter of Lake County residents necessarily. And the average reward has been about $1,000. Most recently, we have been working to reduce the burden of this program as other options across the state or in the region become available to folks. So working with some of our larger landlords to help get them on the state rental assistance program instead of utilizing the local program, and trying to not duplicate funding, right? Like there's been an unprecedented and incredibly important amount of federal money that has come down over the last year to help support communities. And a large portion of that is dedicated to the problems that the UNC was created to solve. And so as those programs kind of work out their kinks and continue to be funded, I don't want to create a duplicate program where I'm asking or we're fundraising for something that already exists. That said, the state-run program has not run flawlessly, and they have made some significant changes in the last month, where hopefully that program starts to work better. But I do think that there still is a need for the Unmet Needs Committee to continue. Our turnaround times in terms of payment are significantly faster. So for smaller landlords who don't have 2 months to wait for the payment to come through, it is still important that our program exists. And then one of the new changes to the state program that was made at the end of March is that residents can only qualify if they make 80% or less of area median income. And we know, I think, that even if you make more than 80% AMI in Lake County, that doesn't necessarily mean that you can cover your rent right now. So I think there's a shrinking need for the UNC, but there is still a need. And I would, yeah. So any questions about how the program's been running before I ask you for money?
I don't have any questions. Thanks, Noah. Commissioner
I don't
Fish?
either.
Nope.
I was up for a comment. I mean, and thanks for the thoughtful overview, and I appreciate some of the comments you made about making sure that we're interfacing well with some of the state and federal money and programs, and and also just say, I mean, I think it was at the State of the Community meeting when I first kind of saw everything tallied up in one place and what it had gone for the Unmet Needs Committee. It's just, I mean, it's stunning. Like, it's just stunning. Like that in this small community, that much money could have been raised and distributed well. Like it's just incredible. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. And it is something as we start having chances to breathe a little bit and not focus on emergent needs, it is something that we're trying to push out. And we were asked to write a memo to the Federal Department of Treasury outlining the program that we've run in Lake County. And so we're getting recognition across the state and across the country for what we've done. And we've talked to Senator Bennett's office multiple times about this project, and it is it's amazing. I agree. I think the work that's been done is really incredible. We have had no non-payment evictions for 13 months.
Excellent. Oh, Commissioner Marcella?
No, I was just going to say thanks to everyone for their work on that. I know that that was kind of a heavy lift through the pandemic to vet those applications as frequently as we did, but I feel like that work really paid off, and we were able to really showcase our partnership to making sure that not only tenants were taken care of, but landlords were taken care of as well. So that holistic approach worked really well for us, I think. When the mayor and I were assisting Noah making some of those phone calls, we really didn't get horrible feedback from either end, so it was very productive.
Yeah, and I think when we talk outside of Lake County about this program, one of the things that stands out to folks who aren't part of Lake County is the collaboration, especially from our public elected officials. So really appreciate all the support you've given, and hope we can continue working on this until we don't have to anymore. So probably March, I think it was about a month ago, I went to City Council and talked to them about the committee, and they were able to give a $50,000 advance on what they were expecting to receive through American Rescue Plan funds. I honestly don't know the status of those funds, if they have actually come through yet, but was hoping to get, or to ask the county for a $100,000 contribution. For context, we've gone down from about $100,000 a month at our peak to $25,000 a month in asks from folks, and I think that will hopefully continue to shrink as we can help folks transition to other programs that are available. And just from past experience, I know that will change, or some people won't be able to access that money, and it is helpful to know that the program has some sustainability and some funding for the next 4 to 6 months.
Thanks, Noah. I think Commissioner Marcella has been keeping a close eye on tracking what and when funds are going to be coming in, and proposed a conversation of the board sooner than later, of course, on that. So we'll include this in that conversation, and I think we'll be scheduling that over the next week or two, Commissioner Marcella.
Yeah, excuse me. I had anticipated us having that on our agenda the first week of May, or the second week of May. Sorry, we'll push that to the second week of May. May 11th, just to have that conversation. We should expect a little bit of guidance by that point, I would assume, but we really have not gotten a whole lot of anything. We did get guidance to make sure that our federal registrations through the award management system was updated, and that our DUNS number was updated to prepare for the distribution of those funds, but have not received anything further than that. And I did reach out to Senator Bennett's office, to our representative in Steamboat Springs. His name is Matthew, and he did email me back this morning that things have taken a little longer than anticipated, but are moving forward, and formulas are finishing being ironed out as we speak. So it's just the federal government pace right now.
Great. All right. Well, let's keep an eye on that, and we'll definitely keep you posted, and have the Unmet Needs Committee, of course, in mind to continue that work.
Great. I really appreciate that. And if it would be helpful for me to come to one or any of those meetings, or prepare something more formal, or send a packet ahead of time, I'm happy to do that. Just let me know what you need.
Fantastic.
And sorry, can I, just so it's recorded, the new guidance, or what I understand of the new guidance, is that some of what I've been told, some of the money that's like one of the allowable expenses is eviction diversion, eviction prevention work. And I think different from CARES, some of that can be spent on administration. So what the city approved was $45,000 directly, that would go directly to assistance, and $5,000 that would go to Full Circle for administration, because it has been an unfunded heavy lift. And so similarly, I would ask that 90,000 go to direct assistance and 10 go to administration.
And we have, yeah, I mean, we've definitely put some of those dollars to the administration of that as well. So that's doesn't sound out of the question there.
Awesome. Thank you.
Towards Full Circle. Okay, great. No, is that all for we're still on item 1 on vaccination access and unmet needs committee work. Well, can we move on to the second item, Noah and Katie?
If you're done, I'm done. Yep.
Excellent. Okay, great. So second on our agenda is the consideration of fiscal sponsorship for the Health Disparities Grant with Builder Generation, and specific to child care coalition work. Well, go ahead, Katie.
I'll jump in on this one, although Noah, jump in on whatever I get wrong or miss. So just again, same as Noah, not exactly sure what level of detail you need, so I'll go middle and you tell me if it's too much or too little. So just to give you some background, back at the end of, so Q3 and Q4 of 2020, Builder Generation partnered with the Public Health Department and St. Vincent Health, conducted the Health and Happiness community assessment. About 5% of the community took it, and demographics roughly matched community demographics. The 3 topics that came up were affordable housing, childcare for 0 to 5, and living wage. And so meanwhile, at the same time, Kayla and Janeen had really jumped in to recognizing that Bright Start had closed, that there really was no licensed, there was no licensed childcare for 0 to 3. The center had scaled back slots for 3 to 5. That was a big issue. Brought a consultant in. They did another survey specific to childcare at the end of 2020, and then brought a consultant in to run a strategic planning process in February of 2021, all of which was to kind of lead up to, I think really thinking about this as an opportunity to overhaul our childcare system in Lake County. I've been here about 20 years. I think I've seen 4 childcare centers close in my time here. I've never seen childcare really, particularly that 0 to 3 slot, really work in Lake County. And I think it could. I think there are things that other communities are doing, but it takes that work to kind of take a step back and say, okay, how do we support these small businesses in our community? One of the things the consultant said was, look, I'll do this strategic planning, but I have to know that's going to live somewhere afterwards. Because if I just hand a strategic plan off to no one, then probably not much is going to get done. So the third thing was happening at the same time, which was that the Communities That Care Coalition was really recognizing childcare as a need in the community, and increasingly saying we'd really like to work on that issue. So at the end of the day, working with Kayla, we decided that that Communities That Care Coalition would take on childcare going forward. We had some funding from the Colorado Health Foundation in particular to kind of help us get through the end of this year. And a couple weeks ago, we were really excited to see that the Health Disparities Grant Program released an RFP to address systems that failed during COVID, and that can be used for childcare, for systems work around childcare, which is really exactly what we want to do. So we are coming to ask you if you all would be the fiscal agent on that grant. By way of background and why we're coming to you, that particular grant program, 20% of the score of your application is about your financial, it's about how you do on a financial risk assessment. Right now, we don't think we would pass, Build a Generation as a nonprofit would not pass that financial risk assessment, not because we're managing money badly, but because we have no financial record. We haven't yet filed a 990, we haven't done an audit yet. We just have closed out our first fiscal year. We're doing all those things, but we haven't gotten there yet. Public health departments in the state do automatically get that full 20%. Because they have already done that financial risk assessment with the state and are considered a good risk. Also, you all are the fiscal agent, or have been the fiscal agent on 2 grants from that program, from the Health Disparities Grant Program for Build a Generation, that currently support our work on housing, work in manufactured housing communities, and the Resilient Lake County project, in which we work with about 20 organizations in the community to become more welcoming and equitable. So it's a relationship that we've had in the past. Again, just for context, when we spun off from the county, you all were the fiscal agent on 6 grants for us. You are currently the fiscal agent on 4 grants. 2 of those grants will end in June of this year, and this grant would pick up in January of next year. So sum total, if we were to get this grant, you would be the fiscal agent on 3 grants. So about half of what you were in January of 2020. So we would really appreciate the help. I think it's a way that you could support, know the county cares a lot. I've seen Kayla work incredibly hard on early childhood in Lake County. I know all of you have or have had small children in Lake County and know the challenges of trying to figure out where they're going to go every day. This would give us 3 years of funding for that Child Care Coalition to really do some systems work. According to the strategic plan that the community came up with, that could be all kinds of things, from working with the CMC to make sure that teachers can meet their teachers and administrators in early childhood can meet their licensing requirements and stay in the community. It could be working to make sure that there's summer programming, which right now doesn't exist for that whole age set. It could be supporting the family, friends, and neighbors networks to make sure that folks that are providing very small in-home childcares have the resources that they need for those businesses. So that's kind of like really broad strokes. Happy to take questions. Noah, anything I missed that you would add?
I don't think so. That was great.
Thanks, Katie. Clarification on the Build a Generation or the coalition is taking on outreach, continued outreach, because I know part of the problem with maintaining and organizing was the nature of the Right Start board, and then we thought that maybe getting that under county and DHS as far as like authority and backbone was moving. So that was my understanding. Would this be complementary to an ongoing work with the county to put something in place? Or are we talking about 3 years before we think we'll have something in place?
Yeah, good question. So the coalition right now has short-term and long-term goals. And the short-term, I can read them all off to you, but really the short-term goals are about exactly what you're talking about, Sarah, like making sure that the term of those goals is through August. And it's really making sure that something happens so that as families are starting to go back to work, they have places for their safe and affordable places for their children. And then the goal is to say, okay, but long-term, what needs to be in place to support, maybe we did some short-term fixes that can be improved. Maybe there's some other systems changes that need to happen for those childcare centers to flourish. We want them to be so strong that when the next crazy thing happens in our community, hopefully we don't have a pandemic anytime soon, those childcare centers are resilient. Does that answer your question?
I think so, a little bit, and maybe Janeen and Commissioner Marcella can jump in too and explain what will be continued as far as the work to complement that on the county side.
Yeah, I can do that, Sarah. So really the work from the county side is ensuring that those state and federal benefits that are passed through the county are really given to those child care centers to take advantage of. CCAP dollars, those types of things, TANF dollars are allocated appropriately to make sure that those child care centers have those resources to assist with enrollment needs as possible.
But we are trying to figure out, sorry, I'm sure Kayla just muted for distraction purposes, but that's okay.
So it's what we're doing is working with those child care centers to make sure that they understand what they have available to them to take advantage of.
I can just add a little bit, Sarah. So we had a short-term and long-term, as Katie mentioned, and the short-term was in the next 3 months, what are we going to do? And the goals were to make sure that there's summer childcare available and that there is childcare available by August, especially in that birth to 3 age range. So definitely, and that's in addition to building the governance structure and the capacity of local existing childcare providers, which can include Bright Start. So the goal is to provide sort of a resource center for anyone who wants to provide childcare. It could be Bright Start, an existing center, a home care provider. How can we grow the home care providers and provide support to them so that they understand the licensing process, the financial piece, all of that. So really the goal is just to look at every possible avenue, in addition to, the things that Commissioner Marcella has been doing in the community and serving on the board at Bright Start and so forth. So it's everything.
Yeah, so I think your question, Sarah, was, are we going to have to wait 3 years for anything to happen? No. That's not the goal, but I think that the group did really recognize that, hey, there's some stuff that we just need to move on and we need to make happen right now. And then there's some other stuff that actually is going to take a while. And we do need to get the right partners at the table and figuring out, okay, what's the long-term sustainability of what we just built?
Yeah, Sarah, I think some of those longer term things are, and it's related to the health and happiness project of the cost of living in a rural mountain community compared to the cost or the income that you make as an early childhood educator, and advocating for some of those changes, which are they're above us at a local government level. And so sometimes we find that we have access issues, I guess, if you will, where, our regional partners, Summit, Eagle County, are able to have initiatives at the local government to assist with funding those centers and salaries or retention programs or something like that. But we just don't have as big of an income base as them, or we haven't had an opportunity to pass like a ballot initiative like they have to provide some of that assistance to those early childhood educators. And so we find that even though we might have some of those people here that would qualify for those positions, they're still driving to like Summit County or Eagle County, because you can make $21 an hour in Summit County as a lead teacher in a classroom, compared to here where you might only make minimum wage. But the cost of living is still extravagant. And so I think some of the work that Katie is going to do with Build a Generation is look through that very long-term lens with some of this grant funding. Right, Katie? I don't want to speak out of turn.
Nope, that's exactly it, is look at, you know, what are the, when we say systems change, sometimes we mean policy change. So sure, that could be, and that those can be at the local level or they can be at the state level. So that might be, for example, I have a call out right now to the Colorado Children's Campaign, because they're working on making it easier for childcare centers to start and to function in terms of state regulation. And so we're sort of asking them like, hey, how would that help us? How can we support you in getting that policy passed at the state level? Because there are, I think, policy levers that, you know, would help our community maintain childcare and have a really stable system of childcare.
I had a question just coming back to the question on the board of the county taking on fiscal sponsorship. So it's a 3-year grant, right? So we would kind of be, I don't mean locked in a negative, but like, it would be a 3-year commitment. I assume we couldn't like transfer it down the road.
I don't know. We haven't asked the state, but my working assumption would be that CDPHE would probably prefer that we just keep the same fiscal structure through the years. Yeah, and I mean, this was sort of, you know, when we spun out, I think one thing we came to you all and said was, hey, we're in this like awkward place where we have staff and we have work that we want to do and our community has needs and we know how to fill those needs, but we have no financial record and there just are, you know, it just makes it really hard for us. You know, anytime we can apply for a grant by ourselves. So Noah talked a little bit about the Vaccine Equity Project. Caring for Colorado was willing to fund us independently of the county. We applied for that. But where we think it's going to make a significant difference and whether or not we're actually going to get the grant, it is something that you guys can do to really help us as we're in this infancy phase. We're like a little toddler. And you're our parents. And we want to walk by ourselves, but we just can't quite do it yet.
Yeah, no, and I through that question, I didn't mean to say, I don't think that's not a requirement in my mind. I was just sort of curious if it was like a year-by-year renewal or how that would work. So I'll just say, I mean, I actually wanted to say, just for full disclosure, I was on the Build Generation board when the spinoff first happened. So sort of on the other side of the table, if you will. But I will, you know, having said that, I mean, I do think the sort of spirit of the MOU was that the county wanted Build Generation to be successful. And that we wanted to be good parents. No, I mean, so I mean, I think, you know, my sense, just as one commissioner, is like, we know how to do this fiscal sponsorship. It's what we intended to do when the original MOU was put in place between the county and Build Generation. So I don't know if we actually have a vote on it today, but I mean, I think I don't, for one commissioner, I don't have any big concern about taking that on, especially given that there's such a clear scoring of the proposal, you know, that that we're able to, you know, demonstrate that financial risk assessment score. So, I mean, to me, it seems like you know, plus as we've been talking about, the purpose of the grant is like so clearly in the community interest in general, and exacerbated by COVID. I mean, to me, it seems like not a heavy lift for the county to consider that.
Thanks, Commissioner Fiedler. I would agree. Commissioner Mudge, what's our next steps?
Well, we can, I mean, we posted this to consider, so we can certainly entertain a motion. I just had one small comment on thinking like summer programming, and I know this is like tip of iceberg stuff and not systemic support necessarily, but don't forget about some partners down south in Chaffee too, and programming. I know one of the council member for Gen Z is working with Garna, and you know, also having his professional background with the Forest Service, really wants to get more programming back to the county that has since kind of receded out of the county for whatever reasons. And again, I know that's kind of a that's a Band-Aid, so to speak, for short term.
No, sir, I think it's a great point. And it really came up in the strategic planning, was a need for like, again, for like short term, we need seats for kids, and long term, we want engaging, enriching programming for kids. Garna's been a great partner for Goal, I know. And that was, there were a couple of people in the strategic planning that were particularly saying, hey, we want our kids outdoors, like look where we live. We want them at a very young age to be appreciating that. So I think it's a really important point.
I will make a motion that we approve the fiscal sponsorship for the Health Disparity Grant work with Build a Generation and the Child Care Coalition.
I'll second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No, thank you.
None for me.
I don't have anything either. Hearing nothing, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
We're grateful. Can I ask a slightly related but off-topic question?
Sure.
I think I had sent you all an email this morning about streamlining the fiscal agent process for the grants that we have. I don't know that made it on the agenda, but I wondered if we could agree on a time. If you're not, I'm assuming, well, if you're comfortable talking about it today, I certainly can talk about it today, or if there's a time I could come back.
Yeah, let's put that oh.
Katie, I had forwarded that information to legal, and so it's just pending legal review. Could we plan on having that discussion maybe on May 17th at our next regular meeting? I think that would give adequate time to bounce back any questions that anybody might have. So I think I would suggest, if that would be an appropriate day for that would be okay.
That sounds good for me. And the amendment also for the existing MOU related, but I think maybe slightly.
No, that is what I'm talking about.
That is the same. Okay.
Yeah, that proposed amendment. So it would be an amendment to the existing MOU that we have, which covers a 5-year period. There was one way that you all sort of money changed hands last year, and we're proposing to try to simplify that a little bit this year.
Okay.
And yeah, and I wrote up an amendment because I figured that was the easiest way to, since we have an existing MOU, and then gave you lots of backup, like here was the original MOU, and here's kind of what I'm proposing. Please reach out if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them.
Okay.
Well, let's plan on May 17th for that then, Katie.
That sounds great. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thanks.
Got it on the list. Great. And going into, okay, let's see. All right, next on the agenda, we have ratification of the addition of a dispatch position. Let's see. funded through the E911 Telephone Authority. Commissioner Marcella, do you want to give us a little bit of background here? I think this is actually a standing arrangement and way that we are able to leverage funds that come through the E911. And we are just kind of getting numbers up to expected and requested staffing levels at dispatch.
Yeah, so we were approached by the communications supervisor, Sarah Keenan, a while back about adding this position and adding this additional staff person, that the E911 Telephone Authority had enough money in their budget to pay for this position. And so they would cover the cost of the position, salary, and benefits for the addition of an additional dispatcher. I've reached out to the E911 board to talk through what that looks like in perpetuity. And it sounds like through some of those preliminary conversations with the E911 board that isn't something that they would be willing to like give us the money for and then pull back on. So we will talk about that again going into the next budget cycle. But after having those communications with the supervisor, Sarah Keenan, it was really important for them to have this additional position to be able to appropriately and adequately answer both 911 calls and non-emergent calls and allow her to do her job as communications supervisor.
Great, thanks, Commissioner Marcella. I don't have any other questions for you here. I know there's, like you said, the E911 board, and they talk about comms and have been involved in some of the improvements to infrastructure, and so just our continued effort to improve work environment and response time for the community, as well as visitors alike.
Yeah, and it really allows Sarah Keenan the opportunity to participate in those conversations with the EOC and those trainings, and then train dispatchers appropriately as well. And so it's really just a necessity to allow for that organizational flow within the communications department to work appropriately. So if anybody has any other questions, I'd be happy to take those. If not, I can make a motion.
I don't have any further questions. This seems like a good thing and straightforward, so thanks.
All right, I will make a motion that we ratify the addition of an additional dispatch position funded through the E911 Telephone Authority.
Second. Any further discussion?
No, thank you.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Great. Thanks very much. All right, next on our agenda, we have core services purchase of service contract between Chaffee, Custer, Fremont, and Lake County Department of Human Services, Social Services, and West Central Mental Health Center Incorporated, doing business as SOLVISTA Health. I think we have Janeen McGee on the line. Janeen, do you want to give us a background on this renewal? Oh, I'm not sure we can hear you. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Can you hear me? All right, thanks, sorry. So yeah, this is our standard annual contract that we sign with SOLVISTA with the region. So Fremont County actually manages this contract for us, and it is for prevention funding. This is in addition to our regular core service allocation that provides funding for mental health services for ongoing cases in child welfare. This is a separate contract that's regional. So what we do with this funds, Lake County gets $15,000 out of this contract, and we focus on providing the cost covering the cost of any mental health services that is needed by anyone with a child in the home, including the children themselves. So if there's any financial barrier, we can get that referral, we can get it paid for through this source with SOLVISTA. So that's what it's for. Any questions?
I don't have any questions for you, Janeen, Commissioner Fiedler, or Marcella.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Janeen.
Okay. Thank you.
I will make a motion that we approve the core services purchase of service contract between Chaffee, Custer, Fremont, and Lake County Department of Human Services and West Central Mental Health Center Incorporated, doing business as SOLVISTA Health.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
No, thanks.
Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
Janine. All right, next on the agenda, we have the renewal of the Twin Lakes General Store and Mercantile LLC for their liquor store liquor license. Let me look here. Looks like we have Patty Berger. Patty, do we have all submitted paperwork, fees paid, any concerns that we should be aware of?
No, I have no concerns. Everything has been submitted.
Thank you so much. All right, another straightforward item. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the Twin Lake General Store and Mercantile LLC liquor store liquor license renewal. Okay, I think that was the so moved.
Yeah, sorry.
All right.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion?
None for me, thanks.
Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Great. All right. Next on the list, we have our enterprise fleet contract consideration. We've been working over there maybe over a year now, talking about fleet efficiencies, getting new vehicles into rotation. We've taken some similar action with the sheriff's office and have seen some success in public works as far as vehicles that we aren't acquiring that are very old and need a lot of maintenance. And so this is the start to kind of reviving that fleet. And we've been working with legal and public works on finalizing this agreement, which still needs a few tweaks to the language. But I think we are at a point where we can consider approval or denial conditioned on final legal review. Do the commissioners have any questions on this? And or I see Michael Irwin is on here, Public Works Director. Would you like to make any comments on this, Michael?
Yeah, basically a lot of these are replacing vehicles that are like prehistoric, like 1990s model vehicles. There's some in the 2000s, but they are like maintenance vehicles that, you know, have plows and stuff that get used quite a bit. Also, we're looking at doing some fleet vehicles instead of having a parking lot full of vehicles, looking at doing some Explorers or SUVs and a couple of pickups for, you know, all employees to use, fleets that they can check out and use. It's time we need to do something with them because we are like right now putting a lot of money into vehicles to repair them. I know I just put $2,000 in a pickup truck just to get it back on the road so that we could use it. So it adds up really quick.
Yeah, and Michael, you've the mechanics have done a great job since really utilizing PubWorks, the software that we have to bring to the commissioners over the last few years. The actual sum of that investment over just the maintenance of some of those older vehicles. And as you said, it's, you know, getting to that tipping point or past that, where it makes the most sense to invest in new and a 5-year rotation in this planning rather than sinking that money into vehicles that continue to degrade. So very appreciative of the data and that those numbers that we can rely on to help make these decisions.
Michael, this is Kayla. I just have 2 questions quickly. Will we downsize the size of our fleet? 1, and 2, will those vehicles be available for like human services to use on an emergent basis, or how would that work? I just feel like we have a really extensive number of vehicles for the amount of employees that we have. And so I don't want us to keep getting vehicles with the intent of starting a fleet rotation, but not disposing of vehicles that we should be disposing of.
No, we are downsizing. Obviously, we're looking at, the 2 pickups and SUVs for county employees to use if they have to go out of town or something. They're available for all the departments to use. We haven't decided which ones, like from human services that we could swap out yet. Basically, all the ones we're doing right now are existing public works ones, and maybe a couple of the public health ones. Not saying anything to Colleen, but some of the ones that kind of just sit all the time, and also some of the human service. I think we have one over here that sits all the time that could be replaced and used with a fleet vehicle. That would be available to their use all the time when they're not being used elsewhere,
Okay. Yeah, I think that would be helpful for us to think about considering long-term, is just really, instead of continuing to add to those assets, which, continues to add to the maintenance and overall long-term costs, but really slimming that down to, what departments are actually using vehicles. And like maybe in my opinion, it might not be feasible for like the commissioners to have their own car, but to share a car with multiple departments, because we don't travel quite as frequently. And I would imagine that the course of the pandemic has really changed a lot of that training and education opportunity to where a lot of that is virtual now and will continue to be offered in a virtual setting for a while into the future. And so I just would really want us to focus on slimming that down a little bit.
And the intent is not to have a whole bunch of cars out in the parking lot all the time, but we need them available when the employees do need them to go out of town and stuff, because there are a lot of things that we have to go to Denver to pick up that don't get shipped up here, or that it's cheaper to go pick up. But basically, the public works vehicles are snow plows. There's a truck for the airport included in that, to plow snow around the airport, and also a few other vehicles that are out there. And basically, those vehicles will be used pretty much all the time, because they are currently being used all the time.
Okay. Yeah, great. No, I don't have any additional questions other than that. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was struggling with the mute button. I had one question. I was just going back over some of the discussion that had happened at the staff level on negotiating this contract, and there's one question I didn't see it in the final contract, but there had been some discussion about whether I think it was maybe through a program called Sourcewell, whether we would be assured that there was sort of a good level of competitive bidding, within this lease. I think that the hope was to, comply with our procurement policies and just generally being good stewards of funds, but also not have to impose our own layer of sort of review. So Michael or anyone else, I'm wondering if you could comment on whether we were able to get that kind of bidding clause rolled into the enterprise agreement so that we would be satisfied with the vehicle leasing that shows up on it without having to impose our secondary level of review.
I don't know if we have that clause in there, but we do, and Enterprise is a member of Sourcewell, just like Lake County is. So
Okay.
they already have that, you know, in their bid. Basically, they've already been approved by Sourcewell to use them, so they meet that purpose anyways.
Okay, great. Thanks for that clarification. Because yeah, I didn't see it, but I didn't realize Enterprise was itself a member. So that sounds good. Thanks.
Commissioner Fiedler, also just for some context, Michael and I had also worked with Ford Motor Company regarding this procurement as well. And while they were a really great fit for the sheriff's office and what they needed with law enforcement, we weren't able to get a cost comparative enough to Enterprise, and Enterprise was really the lowest cost for what we needed in terms of like the vehicles for maintenance.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
All right, if there's no other questions for Michael, or, well, we could certainly have continued discussion after a motion, but I'll entertain a motion to improve an engagement with Enterprise for the county's fleet pending final legal review.
So moved. Or sorry, you need a first motion.
Nope, that's good. You got it. I need a second now. I think Kayla seconded.
Yeah, could you hear me? Sorry.
It sounded a bit muffled. That's okay. I'm trying to keep track of you. All right, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
All right. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Great. Thank you, Michael. And thanks, legal, for this continued work. It's kind of been a while coming, recirculating and priorities. So glad to get it moving forward here. All right, next on our agenda, we have an MOU with Teller County for inmate housing. This was brought to us by the Sheriff's Office, and legal has reviewed it with Teller County legal representation. And so I am not sure if we have any other, I believe this will be our first long-term agreement for the housing of inmates. And so I think that it's going to give us a bit more stability, or at least expectation, clearer expectation on long-term relationship, perhaps. Chris Floyd, do you have anything else to add to this MOU with Teller County?
No, Commissioner Mudge, I believe this is the first of its kind that I've seen. I was somewhat hopeful that perhaps Sheriff Reyes or the undersheriff would be able to join us today to provide any additional comments on it. But they have been very flexible in terms of working with us. And when I say they, Teller County's legal and leadership there, working with us on the terms of this and to provide a better opportunity for Lake County to have positive terms for the housing of its inmates there. I'm happy to answer any questions y'all have on it.
Thanks, Chris. I do not have any questions for you myself. My fellow commissioners have any further questions?
No, I don't at this point. It seemed pretty straightforward to me. Thank you.
Yeah, no, same here, and good just to get it on a proper format on paper rather than just sort of continuing with informal agreements with other counties.
Agreed. Thank you for working on this, Chris. With that, I will entertain a motion for the approval of the MOU with Teller County for inmate housing.
So moved.
And second?
All right, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
Well,
Hearing,
maybe just make the comment for background. I mean, I think for people who aren't familiar, I mean, the need for this is because we largely have the jail shut down because of the conditions and its age. And again, just sort of highlights the really urgent need to continue work on the Justice Center and figure out what an actual permanent solution to this is. This is really a Band-Aid on a temporary fix that puts a big strain on the workings of our legal system and on the sheriff's office and deputies and our vehicles. So again, it's a great Band-Aid, but we really need to get moving on the permanent solution.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Fiedler. Any other comments or discussion?
No, thank you.
All right. All right, hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
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 Okay. Next on the agenda, we have an MOU with Chaffee County for Upper Arkansas Emergency Preparedness and Response, or EPR coordinator. Commissioner Marcella, do you want to give us any background here? Don't see.
Sure. Colleen is still with us too, so I don't know if she has anything to add. But we're working with with Chaffee County for a coordinator for continued response with emergency preparedness. Colleen, I don't know if you want to add any details to.
Yeah, absolutely. Here, let me jump on. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm still here. Yeah, so what has happened, obviously, in the past year, we've been responding to COVID. We have, funding to do that, but there's also, under our umbrella is emergency preparedness and response. And believe it or not all the deliverables during a pandemic actually overlap with some of the deliverables in our emergency preparedness and response position. Both myself and Andrea, who's my counterpart in Chaffee County, still have to do some of these other pieces on top of the COVID work. Initially, we were talking about maybe we need a COVID-19 coordinator. So basically this evolved out of the fact that we recognized that it'd be really great to start kind of a regional conversation. We've talked about this as far as like environmental health, maybe that's an opportunity down the road, but seeing that COVID is not going away, knowing that we're going to continue to respond, we have funding. It's called the ELC funding. So the epidemiology and laboratory capacity funding. So I'm trying to think, I've got my contract here, which I will send as the appendix. We are both using, utilizing the similar funding sources to be able to support this position. And so with that being said, we have this funding through the end of 2022, and then we actually will get more funding here come June that will be good through the end of 2023. So obviously this is a MOU between Lake and Chaffee. So basically we'll hire that person, we kind of split them. So as in anything, some weeks we might need 30 hours, they might need 10 or vice versa, or hey, there's something big happening in Lake County and I need additional support, wildfire, for example, not jinxing us, then I have that ability to have, to feel supported. I think, it's really come to light in this past year is not really having that fallback and having someone who can be really working on, what the needs are, what our deliverables are in order to maintain the grants. It would be super helpful, and to share this person is an exciting opportunity for us with Chaffee County. So basically this is the MOU that says Chaffee's in agreement, we're on board, and then hopefully if we all agree, then we can post a position and get it rolling is where I'm at. Because this position has not posted yet. We were waiting to kind of get through all of these pieces first so that when and if we get the right person, it's not a delayed process of, oh, now let's get the MOU in place versus it's ready to go. Let's go find someone. Let's give me a break.
Colleen, this is Kayla. The only piece of clarification I would want to make is Chaffee County is still in the South Central region with us, and there's nothing at the state level with this MOU with Chaffee or the funding working with two counties or any of that kind of concern, right?
No, if anything, we are once again leading the way in creating something that, you know, the state will look at. Granted, there are what they call special health districts that have multiple counties. Like, for example, Tri-County is like the big one, right, down in the metro area that people think about. But this is just an opportunity to kind of resource-wise is, you know, to bring in someone that will support both of us, that we share that position, and it's, you know, a better way to go. But no, it does not impact our funding with the state. We're both paying, you know, independently out of our funding how we see fit. We have passed it through the state because we had to submit budgets to the state saying that we're doing that, and they were in agreement.
And commissioners, this is Chris. I just wanted to note for the record that the version of the MOU before you today has been approved by Chaffee County as well.
Thank you. Okay. Colleen, I have no other questions for you. Commission doesn't. I will entertain. I'm sorry, I'm trying to pull up my document here. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the MOU with Chaffee County for the Upper Arkansas EPR, or Emergency Preparedness and Response Coordinator position.
So moved.
Second.
And I will just say, you know, we have another item on our agenda, kind of leading into further partnerships with Chaffee County, and it's really nice to see. I mean, I know that's been happening, but I think COVID and all of the strain on our capacity and resources have really kind of pushed forward these kind of partnerships to solidify those. And I think it's going to be really a great service and improvement across all services for a stronger relationship with Chaffee County. I'm really grateful for that partnership. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the table?
None for me.
Well, thank you.
All right. Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Excellent. Thank you so much, Colleen.
Thank you guys, so appreciate it.
All right. Next on our agenda, we have Newmont easement agreement for local trail development. We have the Cloud City Wheelers here, and a little bit of tee up on this. I think the request of the board is to consider the effort here in principle, as you know, we've gotten some response from legal and questions to iron out more of the detail. But with that, I'll let Sterling take the lead on explaining what we're looking at here.
Thank you, Sarah. In full disclosure, I am related to Commissioner Sarah Mudge. My name is Sterling Mudge. I'm the Executive Director for the Cloud City Wheelers. We are a local trail advocacy group here in Lake County. Right now, we currently have built and maintained 15 miles of trail located on Lake County-owned land, as well as Colorado Mountain College land. And most recently, last year in 2020, we built 6.5 miles of trail out in the Lake County Turquoise Lake Recreation Area for the Forest Service. What this equates to is around $570,000 worth of trail built for the community through the nonprofit, the Cloud City Wheelers. In 2019, we identified the need for more trails on private land, specifically on the east side of town. The east side of town, if you don't know already, has around 4,000 different parcels with a lot of different ownership, from 3/32 to 100% ownership of each claim. With that being said, there's a lot of user-created trails that we hope to, in the future, be able to maintain for the community and for visitors to the community as well. In 2019, we started working with Newmont Mining Company, otherwise known as Resurrection, in the hopes to legalize some of these existing trails and to construct new sustainable trails to increase outdoor recreation and increase outdoor recreation for the community, for locals and for visitors. Recently, we've, after many meetings with Newmont and some on-site visits, walking around Oregon Gulch area, which is located between the Landfill Road and Brooklyn Heights subdivision, we were able to come to an agreement with Newmont to build 4 miles of new trail, or propose to build 4 miles of new trail. Newmont then drafted up an easement to that the Wheelers proposed and have given to Lake County. And now Lake County is looking at the legal aspects of it, and hopefully through some tweaks we can finalize and increase recreation opportunities to our locals.
Thanks, Sterling. Can you explain to how these are methods that are, is this increasing or is this well established with other jurisdictions as far as the private-public partnership?
Arrangements like this exist very close in the area. The town of Breckenridge, they see they're funded by, their recreation district is funded by taxes. With these taxes, they employ a trail crew that their trail crew builds and maintains trails on private property with the use of easement agreements with those private property landowners. Another neighbor just on the other side of the Mosquito Range, the town of Alma. Town of Alma actually in 2019 leased 2,200 acres in the Mosquito Range to preserve access to U.S. National Forest lands, to allow for people to keep climbing 14ers after some of the trails or access to those trails were closed down. Yeah, there's a lot of it's in Lake County. There are currently no legal trails on private property.
Are there any questions from fellow commissioners for Sterling or the Wheelers?
I don't think I have any questions quite at this point.
I know, again, Commissioner Fiedler?
I think same as Commissioner Marcella, no questions, maybe just some comments or discussion about where we are in considering this whenever you're ready.
Yes, please.
I mean, I think, I'd just say, I think that intent of, maintaining the existing public access on private land and figuring out how to, maintain and increase the public access and recreation assets on that, patchwork of East Side ownership. Well, I thank you for that work and taking that on. I think, as we saw visitation even last year in the pandemic, or I guess perhaps because of the pandemic, that kind of public access and, supporting tourism and recreation is going to be an increasingly important building block of our economy. So we need to figure that out. Sorry that you're a little bit of a test case in how to do that. I think just the comment is, while I think we absolutely want to make this work, we still do have some legal, details to figure out. Unfortunately, just in terms of whose liability lands where, and making sure the right people have the right insurance coverage, and again, particularly protecting the the county, and given that some of these are on old mining claims and mining activities, it raises some, unique but sometimes really expensive issues that we just need to make sure we're all, Cloud City Wheelers and the county are protected on. So I'll just say, I think at this point we're very supportive of this effort and just need to dot some more legal I's and cross some T's before we know exactly how to form the agreement.
Commissioner Marcella?
No, I think Jeff summed it up really nicely, and I definitely don't want to be in a position where we continue to stall any of this process or progress any further of this potential public-private partnership. And so my question would just be what would be what should we do today that would be of assistance to move this further, and then B, what would be an ideal time frame for us to complete review and vetting this completely on our end and with the Wheelers.
Sterling, would it be helpful if we, for funding purposes for moving the project along, considered a letter of support for you to submit to funders?
Currently, we have two different funding options that we have applied for. And with that, the main thing is just permission for construction. So I'd like to say that, yeah, it would be helpful for a letter of support, but at the same time, I think I'd rather see the commissioner's time at working with legal to just push the process a little further.
In looking at that and revisiting some MOUs that the county currently has with the Wheelers, and construction agreements and maintenance agreements, it seems like it might be fair either our second week of May, unless that's too tight of a turnaround, but we could shoot for that second meeting. What do the commissioners or legal think about that time frame?
I'm happy to continue working with Newmont on the provisions, as well as work with Cloud City Wheelers to get an appropriate document in place to represent what their participation will be in regards to the development and maintenance of the trail. And in terms of timing on that, if you're talking about, that would be the 17th. Is that the date that you're looking at to have something before you?
Yeah, I think because that's our second meeting in May, right? Yeah.
Okay. I think that's definitely doable.
Does that sound fair? I think you're going to have to work with that, Wheelers.
Yeah.
We have to wait for the snow to melt as well. So that's sounds good.
All right. Yeah. And again, I think it's that continued conversation with Newmont, looking at those, how that construction and then maintenance and perpetuity, and kind of revising and updating agreements with the Wheelers, as with other recreation committees or groups, really overall, but focusing on this task at hand, I think we'll be able to get through clarifications as far as liability. So that would be much appreciated, legal. Chris? Commissioner Fiedler?
No, that sounds good.
All right. Great. Anything else from the Wheelers?
No, thank you everyone for helping with the process, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you. All right, if there's nothing else on that, let's see, next we have our purchasing, or we have it listed as procurement policy, but purchasing policy adoption consideration. We do have a drafted resolution. The purchasing policy has been revised and we've gone through a process with legal. I see Katie Welter on here as well, who has helped lead that charge with the finance department, and as well as Crystal Hewlett on here. We've done outreach to our elected offices and our department heads for feedback, had a couple of meetings with them and gone through a few iterations here and landing on what I think we're pretty comfortable as a final version. And I see Katie's here. Katie, I know when you sent us our final version too, you had definitely mentioned, continuing to work closely with Crystal and the finance department as we live with this document to be sure that, the intended efficiencies and items needed to be addressed were actually getting utilized and put in place as intended. Would you like to speak a little bit more towards the process and or any other comments you might have on the document?
Sure, I could say a couple things. The current policy has been in place since 2014, and it's just been found to be lacking in a number of ways and by a number of different parties. But I think some of the biggest issues with the current policy were that all purchases greater than $5,000 needed to go through a formal procurement process, which was creating a lot of bottlenecks and also just kind of needlessly onerous. It was also, the policy was found to be vague and a little bit inadequate by an audit conducted by CDOT. And of course, funds that they might award to the county, they want to see properly procured. And then, in terms of process, I think you described it pretty well. There was quite a bit of feedback from the commissioners as well as department heads and elected officials. Crystal and I work closely to look at best practices as well as example policies from similarly sized municipalities in Colorado. And I think we'd like to do a training, if not more than one, with department heads and elected officials as soon as possible if the board chooses to adopt the policy. And we will be developing a frequently asked questions document as questions come in to help with implementing. I think that's it.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, guys.
Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? And then I am happy to read the short resolution into the record if we're ready to move forward.
I am ready to move forward myself.
If I can just make the quick comment, I think, one of the goals that we really tried, besides just updating a 10-year-old or more document, is I think there's inherent balance, even tension between, what can sometimes be perceived as micromanaging by the BOCC versus our, responsibility to sort of steward taxpayer money and sort of otherwise, do the oversight that we are supposed to do over managing expenditures. And I think our real intent had been, to, as Katie Welter said, in most cases, the limits here about what the thresholds, I should say, about what does come before the BOCC are actually higher and sort of, less on the micromanaging end of that that spectrum or trade-off. And our real hope is for us not to be a bottleneck in approving stuff, but stay aware of those big items, especially things that weren't sort of like crystal clear discussed in the annual budget process, or are, other than routine, or as I think the procurement policy now says, if they have sort of multi-budget year implications, some examples like that. So again, I think as was said, the hope is to strike a balance there that's appropriate. And this is also not set in stone, hopefully for another 10 plus years. I think we're very much open to seeing how this works, operationally, and again, sort of make sure that we're not a bottleneck, but still not being sort of blindsided by stuff. And then just a second quick comment is, again, I think this got the policy, the intent and the language is to be a lot clearer on sort of what threshold of expenses have to go out to what kind of bidding, and making sure that we're, getting good value for our taxpayer dollars. So again, we try to strike that balance between not tons and tons of paperwork for every little expense, but making sure the big items are being appropriately, competitively bid, and that we find a good price. So that was it for comment, and thanks for all the hard work that went into updating this from scratch, basically.
Yeah, thank you, Katie and Crystal, for doing that for us. I think that this is the first step in creating those internal processes that we need to have in place to ensure that future boards are aware of any internal obligations and assets that might belong to the county that might be applicable to their department or elected office in future years. And so this is all part of the big picture of continuity of services. As boards change, internal operations should not change. So this is just one more step in that direction.
And also to piggyback, I know Commissioner Fiedler mentioned that, but again, as the process, the budgeting process and conversations are strengthened over the years, those strategies and long-term planning for the county and across departments and offices is, those expectations of expenses to support those strategic plans and goals should be laid out well in advance, and hopefully we don't have any big surprises. But if there's nothing else then from the commissioners, I would be happy to read the resolution into the record. Let me share my screen here. Okay, and Patty Berger, do you know what number resolution this would be for this year?
This would be number 7.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, resolution number 2021-07 of the Board of County Commissioners of County of Lake, State of Colorado, whereas Lake County's current finance policies were adopted August 26, 2014, and whereas the Board of County Commissioners undertook a review of the current finance policies and determined they were in need of updating, and whereas the Board of County Commissioners has determined that consistent procedures should be followed by all Lake County elected officials, department heads, and staff for certain purchasing and contracting of supplies, materials, equipment, and services, including without limitation leases, lease purchases, contractual services, and rentals. And whereas adoption of the new purchasing policy as part of Lake County's finance policies is specifically authorized by 30-11-107, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners that Section 1, Board of County Commissioners hereby makes and adopts the determinations and findings contained in the recitals set forth above. Section 2, the Board of County Commissioners hereby finds and determines that the revised purchasing policy will serve a public purpose and foster enhanced accountability in public finance processes. Section 3, the Board of County Commissioners hereby adopts the revised purchasing policy attached to this resolution, which shall apply to all Lake County elected officials, department heads, and staff, except as may otherwise be provided by Colorado law or determined by the Board of County Commissioners, and all prior resolutions or parts thereof or procedures or policies in conflict with this resolution are hereby repealed. Section 4, this resolution shall become effective upon its adoption, pending our motion adopted this day, April 19th, 2021. I'll entertain a motion. Oh,
I will.
I was just distracted by the chat.
Okay. I will make a motion that we approve Resolution 2021-07, the approval of the 2021 version of the procurement policy.
Second.
Just nuance of calling it the purchasing policy as read. That's okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. All right, we have a motion and a second for approval. I also just might like to note that we will continue, Finance Department will continue to work on some other levels of procedures, such as purchase card procedures and others, to further clarify and outline procurement and expense expectations. Are there any other comments from the commissioners?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Great. Thank you so much for working on that, Katie and Chris and Crystal. Is Crystal still here? I think she is. Thank you.
I am. Thank you for taking the time. I know it's been long and drawn out and quite a process, but it feels good to have this revised and updated in a very workable document. So I appreciate your time.
Definitely. Thanks, Crystal. All right. I think we're at the end of the list here. All right, yes, last on the list, we have the continuation of the Community Wildfire Protection Plan engagement in Phase 2, a contract with Kim Smoyer. And so this, I see we have Chief Daly here as well, but we were really successful in the first phase of this process that we initiated about a month or over a month ago now. The Community Wildfire Protection Plan community survey went out. We hit and exceeded our expectations of 5% of population participation. So we are waiting on the collection of that information and that data to then be presented to leadership and technical group. Our mapper, Bryce Ehrlich, has been working with CFRI, a group that has contributed and intends to contribute in-kind mapping work to Lake County, and has been working with Chaffee County, again, related to kind of this headwaters Lake Chaffee improvement and building on great relationships that we will really be able to leverage with state and federal and other funding, again, across the board, but specific to wildfire protection planning. There really has been this shift to focus on getting projects in place and supporting capacity building and implementation where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck. Chaffee County has been fantastic in offering assistance with their Envision Chaffee staff. And so between that, Cindy Williams participating and leading and driving some of this movement, and as well as including Lake County in an application that Chaffee has submitted to Rocky Mountain Recreation Initiative, which is one of our funding sources, potential funding sources. They've included Lake in this headwater idea of fuel mitigation and priority planning, project planning. And so this second phase then would be coming off of what we've gathered from the community survey, what temperature we understand the community to be educated and or willing, what kind of social licensing there might be to move forward. And the next steps in this year-long process is then to convene land management partners, utility partner, asset owners, recreation assets, mapping, the folks at CFRI for mapping, our own county mapper, to really be sure that we have identified the complete and accurate data to include in this modeling that will create these maps that are an identical tool to what Chaffee County has been using, not only to promote and educate and do outreach with their own community, but again, to leverage for, and so the remainder, the phase 2 proposal is a total of $28,000. I would ask, in working with some other partners, the commissioners, for a commitment of at least $10,000 from the county. ARWIC, or the Arkansas River Watershed Collaborative, that is a subgroup of our Arkansas Basin Roundtable, has committed $10,000, and that is those funds are made up also of roundtable members and primarily, of course, some of those Front Range users in Colorado Springs Utilities, Aurora Water, Pueblo Board of Waterworks, who have a significant stake in the storage that is located in Lake County. I see Chief Daly on here. I'm not sure if he has any comments on the continuation of the program or participation. And with that, I will stop talking and offer any comments or questions from my fellow commissioners.
Yes, Sarah, I'd just like to say a comment. I think this is a great collaborative effort moving forward. This will give us our roadmap on long overdue mitigation efforts here in Lake County. And as everybody knows, we have very old forest, and this process, by initially investing in the plan, if you will give us that roadmap that I was talking about for a very long time coming. Because, mitigation efforts, as everybody should know, it's a marathon. It's going to take a very long time to get these efforts off the ground, and then also actually implementing them. And of course, funding is something that we can look into in the future. I do a great explanation on that. I certainly appreciate it, and all your efforts, of course, in this. Envision Chaffee County, and Chaffee County right now, they got ahead of their issues, and it's really cool that we have an opportunity to be able to work off of those efforts and getting their assistance moving forward here in Lake County. And they've just been wonderful to work with. And of course, all the other people that are involved in that have been wonderful also. I did want to say that I did speak with the mayor, and we would like to be able to allocate at least $3,000 out of the fire fund balance towards this effort. So I know that you had asked me of a number the other day, and that's kind of what we came up with out of that fire fund balance. We would love, obviously, to give more, but we have so much that is being already spent out of that fund. But we wanted to make sure that we put some money towards this effort, because it's an important one. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief Daly. That's fantastic. Really appreciate that contribution. And for I've been talking with the Forest Service. They run on a fiscal year of October to October. And so, of course, they having 68+% ownership of lands in Lake County, they do have an interest in a greater participation. What number that looks like, we do not know today. But with that $23,000 pledged to the project and monthly invoicing, I think we can easily cover the completion of the project. Commissioners? Oh,
I don't have any questions about this. I'm really excited about the next step in this project, and I'm super excited about the fact that we got more participation than we had aimed for with the survey results. So I don't have any questions or hesitations with this. Personally, I think it's really great that we're able to piggyback off those efforts, and that we have a resource in Chaffee County that's gone through this already that is able to offer us assistance. So I don't have any questions or need any clarifications at this point.
Yeah, same here. No, that sounds great to be getting this work underway.
thanks so much. And I know we've mentioned it before too, but just to be perfectly clear, the current Community Wildfire Protection Plan is great, and it focuses a lot on subdivisions and some fuel mitigation, but it is missing some of those larger strategies and valued assets identified across the county. And so again, it's been really great to incorporate Parkville and the watershed and Xcel Energy and their utilities to really get a map of recreation assets as we really look to, create efficiencies and protect what drives the economy and our quality of life here in Lake County. So yeah, I appreciate the enthusiasm. Thank you everyone for pushing out the survey and making that such a great success. We got about 450 responses, and our goal at our projected population increase, I think per the census of what I heard of about 8,100 was 405. So yay. Nice work. Thank you. Yeah, so with that, I guess I'd love to entertain a motion to enter into an agreement with Kim Smoyer to complete the phase 2 and final, to complete phase 2 to finalize our community wildfire protection amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Great. Thank you so much. And yeah, I guess I just can't say enough that it's really great to see regional and statewide partners kind of making this move to really encourage this consolidation and efficiency in efforts and focus funding too. There's a great amount of resources out there, and only a few of our partners have been around long enough in the game to know that when it seems like this windfall from state and other agencies is available, we need to take advantage of it and get some boots on the ground and shovels on the ground to really implement this stuff. And having the same tools as Chaffee will really get us a few steps ahead. So thank you. Thanks for joining, Chief Daly.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Any further discussion?
Actually, if I could just make a quick comment, I wanted to say, before becoming county commissioner, I worked on helping states develop their climate change plans, specifically around the forest and land use sectors. And this effort in Chaffee County, that bond vote, and then the work that they've done with the community to develop these plans, I mean, that's a national model that's pointed to in this work. This is not like some little thing. So it really is fantastic that we can, learn from what they've done and work with a neighboring county, but also, this really is a model for this work throughout the West facing these kinds of issues.
Thanks, I appreciate that note. Any other comments, Commissioner Marcella?
No, thank you.
All righty. Hearing no further discussion, we have a motion on the table to approve further engagement for phase 2 of the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Excellent. Thank you so much. All right. We are done with new business. Moving into reports, minutes, bills, and payroll. You'll have to forgive me. I think there are some on here that we, like the April minutes listed, I do not think we got a chance to review. And some missing, I did not get a chance to look at that were supplied. So I'm going to pull up my list unless somebody else has that readily available.
I will go ahead and admit that with all the other agenda items we had prepping for this this meeting, I also have not pulled together all the minutes that we have in front of us and done the proper review. So I hate to keep hunting these down the road. But I wonder if we could find time to like really collect these all in one place and maybe even do a quick special meeting to approve these at some point. I mean, just so we don't wait months more.
I think that would be fine.
Okay.
Sorry.
Let me just clarify, because we did get minutes from February and March, so we were missing the special meeting minutes, I believe, for February 11th. And special meeting minutes for March 9th. So my suggestion, and let me understand if I'm hearing you correctly, Commissioner Fiedler, would be to remove the approval of the April minutes listed here and remove the February 11th and March 9th special meeting minutes, but to entertain approval for the remaining minutes with the changes that have been submitted to the clerk. If that is not what you intend and are asking to punt all of them, I'm okay with that. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding.
No, if that's what you said is fine with me.
Okay.
If we're good to split them up like that.
Okay, so all right, so it looks like then we can entertain an approval of the minutes per changes submitted to the clerk on, and that, let's look at this list together. The regular meeting on February 1st, 2021, the minutes for the special meeting held February 8th, 2021, the minutes for the special meeting held February 9th, 2021, the minutes for the special meeting held February 23rd, 2021, minutes for the regular meeting held March 1st, 2021, minutes for the regular meeting held March 15th, 2021, and the minutes for the LCCHP meeting held March 17th, 2021. And then those other five we can table for next meeting. Do I have an approval on?
I'll move that motion to adopt the minutes of the dates that you read. Sorry, I did not catch all of those as you were reading them out.
No, thank you. That'll suffice.
I will second that, and maybe we should check with the clerk and make sure that we got those all straight.
Patty, did you follow along with that?
Yes, I did.
First night. Does that sound like that makes sense?
It does.
And I grabbed all the ones that we did get to review?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you listening along there in detail. All right, well, we have a motion to approve the minutes as read and listed. Any further discussion?
Thank you.
Okay.
None for me.
Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Great. Kayla, was that an aye? Did it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, and then we do have approval of the Public Trustees Report for the first quarter of 2021.
I will make a motion that we approve the Public Trustees Report for Q1 of 2021.
Second.
All right, any further discussion?
No, thank you.
None for me.
Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Great, and last but not least, bills and payroll. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of bills and payroll for pay period ending April 9th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Further discussion?
No, thank you.
Hearing,
No thanks.
all right. Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Fantastic. We don't have much public left to offer another opportunity for public comment on items not on the agenda. Any comments or questions before we adjourn?
None for me, thanks. I will be able to attend tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. The work session with Boom Days Committee. The mayor also confirmed. I have not heard back from the Boom Days Committee themselves, but I've sent them multiple emails to let them know of the time and sent the planner with the link to log on. So I'll just see if the mayor can call to make sure that they got the email and that they have the information before tomorrow. And then if anything comes of that, I'll let you know. So
great. And to clarify, Kayla, I know you were in contact with Mark Hyde and some of the executive committee members of the Boom Days Committee that said that Tuesday or Wednesday would work for them. You just mean that to verify that the time set up for tomorrow, everybody is aware of.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, just to make sure that they're aware that we did, that we have the posting requirement to post it at a specific time, 24 hours in advance, which Patty was so grateful to do for us this morning while I was getting my vaccination. So I just will clarify with them and make sure that my email to them went through and they've got all the information they need.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Thanks for hanging in there on the long agenda and way to get through get some things off the list here.
I'm not feeling bad at this point. I thought by now I'd have some side effects, but I'm not feeling bad. So
good. Keep that Advil and water by the side of the bed and get the kids to get somebody queued up to bring the kids to school tomorrow morning. But yeah. I hope you feel fine. I hope you feel fine.
Yeah, when I was asking the nurse about the vaccinations that they've been giving, she said that they have 33 vaccinations that they do per day, Monday through Friday, and they have had their slots filled. So, or, if somebody is a no call, no show, then they are able to pull somebody off of a list and get them in so that they're not wasting a vaccination. But she said that they've been busy ever since they've been able to offer it. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, definitely.
I was just going to mention now that I'm 2 weeks as of today out for my second one. If your arm hurts, massage it. That absolutely does hurt. It hurts when you do it, but it makes it better.
I think I got it in my left arm this time and got it in my right the last time. And so when I was sitting there, I was like, oh, my arm hurts, but maybe it's just me mentally preparing.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Harold, for being here. We appreciate it. All right. And with that, it's 3:20 and we will adjourn.
Bye.
Bye-bye.